You are now listening to the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello there, and welcome back to The Disconnected. I am here with a label I've been trying to get for quite a long time, Oscilloscope Labs. Thank you for coming on with me today.
Of course.
Thanks for having us.
Since we got two of you, can you introduce yourselves and your role at the company?
Yeah, I'm Rachel Zern. I deal with all the DVD and Blu-ray aspects, and I work with Tom over here.
I'm Tom Sladek. I work with Rachel for the shiny discs stuff. I also do the other aspects of home entertainment, which is digital download, rental, licensing for streaming services, licensing for linear TV, a little bit of international. Everybody wears multiple hats around here, so that's kind of what we do.
And one thing I was going to bring up later, but you kind of segued perfectly into it, so I'll jump into it. Oscilloscope seems to deal with a lot of educational opportunities. Is that a big part of what you guys do still?
Yeah, that's
sure.
It's not really our department, but yeah, we work with a lot of universities to have screenings there.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way for a college or university to access our films is via one of the major services, like Canopy is a big one, right. Alexander Street, Infobase. Most of our catalog is available across multiple educational streaming services, and even in the public library spaces, people like Hoopla. They're great resources too. And again, if your local public library has access to Hoopla, people should take full advantage of that. And again, you'll see not only our stuff, but a bunch of other great stuff too.
That's a good shout out. Not a lot of people take advantage of the library system right now. And not only is it robust, but it also makes them get more funding when their stuff is actually used. So I would say check that out.
Yeah, I mean, again, getting back to the library question, I mean, people like Midwest Tape, Baker and Taylor, they've been great partners for us on the physical media side because they actually have dedicated staffs that actually talk to buyers and curators at the local library level and even like the larger library systems. So people forget that even though Blockbuster's gone away and Hollywood Video's gone away and Family Video's gone away, any regional business is basically all done. You have a great video store probably in your own hometown, and that's your public library, and you can get it for free with your library card. And again, I'm happy to work with those distributors, as I know Rachel is too, because they do a great job making people aware of our stuff. And it's great for the consumer because they get it at a low to no cost, basically.
And since we're bringing it up, this has very little to do with Oscilloscope, so pardon me for just a second. But if you are in the middle of nowhere and don't have access to something great like this, reminder too, in the U.S. especially, that Scarecrow Video has every single Oscilloscope title, and they rent nationwide as well for fairly cheap.
That's true. Mark's a longtime friend of Oscope, and again, happy to support them as they've been super supportive of us since basically day one.
Yeah. Well, speaking of day one, can you tell us about the history behind Oscope? Because it has been an interesting ride that includes the Beastie Boys.
Yes. Started with MCA of the Beastie Boys, Adam Yauch. Back in 2007, 2008, he was really passionate about film, so he wanted to start a production / distribution. Personally, I was at South by Southwest and I was working the film portion of it. And this was 2008, I guess. And I saw him come up, and I'm a huge Beastie Boys fan. That's how I got into this. And I saw him come up, and he was about to watch one of the films, which Oscilloscope ended up buying. It was a Bigfoot.
Not your typical Bigfoot.
Not your typical Bigfoot. But I chatted with him afterwards, not knowing that 2 years later I would start working for them.
Wow, that's awesome. So you've been there, gosh, it's almost 14 years. Tom, how long have you been there?
Rachel and I started basically around the same time. I started as a DVD sales guy in January 2010, and I think did you come on board that?
I was an intern in 2010.
Okay, so yeah, and I know that we hired you shortly after your internship,
yes.
But I assumed that we came
officially
around the same time.
2011.
Right.
Yes.
I have a friend that lives in Brooklyn, and probably once every couple months he sends me a picture of the front little doorstop of Oscilloscope and says, "You got to come, try to get him on the show," and now you're finally here. So I get to fulfill this finally.
I'm glad that we finally responded to an email.
It's funny because we're usually really good at that. Unlike a lot of people in this business, we respond to emails. I'm not going to point fingers or name names.
There's only about 10 of us that work here, so
Yes.
It's a very small company. So communication should be strong, but
Internally,
Well,
it's very strong.
yes.
I didn't feel ignored. I will say that. I've had worse. With the company being around for almost 16 years now, and everything that's happened with physical media during that time, I would love to hear, how do you describe the catalog of Oscilloscope to somebody else? Because it is such an interesting and varied slate of films.
Yes.
I mean, in the broadest sense, I tell people that Oscilloscope curates the best in American and international independent films. And whether that you like documentaries or you like narrative features, we've got something pretty much for everybody, whether they know it or not. There's a lot of discovery meant to be had here. So
I will say one of the things that I've enjoyed most about Oscilloscope, you just brought up, and that is the documentaries. There are few boutiques that would be willing to invest in documentaries as much as Oscilloscope has over the years. And there is never a shortage of interesting subject matter or good filmmakers or something that has come out, honestly, within just like the last 6 months. Usually there's at least one or two that's always impressive. And that seems to be a hurdle that other boutiques have not taken on. Do you think there's a reason why, or why Oscilloscope seems to find it important?
I'm not sure why other people don't take as much advantage as they can. I think there's a lot of business reasons why they don't. When the streaming world kind of kicked in and Netflix realized that was a relatively inexpensive way to grab rights and have exclusivity, they did a lot to make a more traditional distributor, a full service distributor like we are, that includes theatrical and home entertainment and libraries and educational and everything else, makes it a lot more challenging for us to have access to that material. So for a while there, a good 7-8 years, the big streamers are eating up all the high profile titles that maybe would see the light of day if they were in a theater. But since the business kind of cratered a little bit, and there were some changes, outside of their company and how things worked and the way that they approached original material, the pendulums kind of swung back a little bit to people like us, where we'll actually treat a film and the subject matter, or the subject being discussed, as being is meaningful and important and deserving of a platform that's not just something that you're going to scroll past on a TV screen.
That makes a lot of sense to me. We probably should get into the thing that has been most compelling to me over the years, and that is the fact that I'm holding the 4 most recent titles that I've received in the mail from Oscilloscope, including one really interesting one. But the reason I have them is because I've been a member of the Circle of Trust for years now. Can you give some of the details behind what the Circle of Trust is?
Yes. So the Circle of Trust is it's a year-long subscription, and I believe you get whatever we release in that year, and usually it's about 12. I think it's usually 12 to 15 DVDs or Blu-rays.
It's usually 10 titles. It's not based on the year. It's the next 10.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's changed a bit the past 14 years. But it's still a really great deal for 10 titles at $140. And it's either DVD or Blu-ray. So the fact that Blu-ray is the same price, it's great. Such a good deal.
Yeah. And again, it speaks to the culture of the company. When Adam founded the company, he wanted Oscilloscope to kind of be seen as an indie label, not just an indie film distributor, but also like a boutique brand, because he was obviously a music guy, a record guy. He collected stuff and he wants people to have that kind of, tangible piece of whatever art that they're consuming. And the idea of Circle of Trust is that he wanted to kind of, number one, kind of smooth out the billing when the company's just getting started and you have X amount of subscribers paying X amount of dollars all up front. That's how people like Sub Pop and, Touch and Go and Merge, kind of smooth out their billing a little bit. But it's good for the consumer because they get a little bit cheaper and they know that they're going to have it before a store has it. So
beyond that, you also get 50% off of everything in the catalog for the entire time that you're a member.
Yes.
And that's something I took advantage of when I first came on to get the big ones that I wanted that had already been released. But I've seen a couple people always laugh because Oscilloscope has a couple really trusty sales every year. Black Friday, 420 are probably the most well-known ones. But they're only 24-hour sales. And so after that, you're SOL unless you're a member.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
One big thing too, though, is being a member, you get access to things like this documentary, God and Country, that just came. Not something that any of us had to pay for. It just came. We got an email saying, hey, we're just doing this to be nice. In the past 2 years, I got a shirt, really nice long sleeve shirt for free. I got for the very first time from any boutique label. For anybody listening, we would love to get this lube from a company.
Yes.
All of these wonderful things have come. We've gotten stickers. We've gotten all kinds of stuff. Where does that headspace come from? What are you doing? Because that's expensive.
Well, since like I said, we are a full service distributor, part of the marketing of a film, you have to kind of reach out to the exhibitors, the art houses that are showing these films. And we learned a lesson relatively early on, not that early, I guess, but it was like, when did HAL come out?
Oh, yeah, when we did
Yeah, we acquired a film called HAL about the director Hal Ashby, who was a famous stoner. Yep. And one of the tchotchke that we would make, that record labels used to make to spiff out to record stores or whatever, we actually made some branded Hal Ashby gummies to give to some of the exhibitors as a kind of like, hey, would you play our movie? And here's some gummies for you, like some CBB gummies. And there was so much demand for those. We actually sold more of those than we did of the disc. And the thought was, well, this is great. Maybe what other things can we multi-purpose? Obviously, it's a promotional item, but if people like it and it's utilitarian enough, someone would actually want to buy it.
Yep.
So, again, it's nothing serves only one purpose around here.
I think if I remember right, I got rolling papers one time.
We have lots of rolling papers, yeah. Some great matches. We have Oscilloscope. So yeah, we have do we have candles?
Do we?
Oh, maybe not. Maybe not yet. It seems like part of her.
Maybe they're coming.
Yeah.
One thing that I should bring up, Celluloid the game seems to be a big thing that Oscilloscope is pushing. Oh, look at that. I didn't even know you had it in your hand.
Oh, yeah, amazing. We have it. The artwork on it is really great if you want to open that up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like a film trivia game. And you can kind of create your own rules. There's like suggested rules of how to play, but a lot of it is just like movie association or film association. There's also TV.
Nice.
Do you want to just take?
Oh, you do that.
But like the artwork on it is really nice.
It's very Oscilloscope.
Oh yeah, but just yeah. So like great artwork and just a lot of different ways that you can decide how to play it. But it's a fun film trivia game.
Looks good.
It's being part of the culture is something that Adam always wanted us to be, right. And for the longest time, things kind of hit a bump with COVID. Oscilloscope would host trivia nights for the local New York film community, and the turnout was always great. Everybody would have a lot of fun. Got real competitive with teams and stuff. It was always fun to try to come up with questions to stump the other panelists.
It was known as one of the hardest film trivia games in the city.
Yeah. And that's that's how we ended up here.
Yes.
Nice.
with cellular, with an idea of just try to make something for home.
Yep.
And anybody that has been deep in film trivia know that's a true bragging point to be able to be the most difficult one.
Yes. The questions were very specific.
Well, to answer those, you got to be rooted in cinema. So, Rachel, what's your history with film? I mean, you were at South by Southwest. What got you there?
Yeah. So I went to college in Austin, and so I was studying advertising. But then working at South by Southwest, I was working the film part. I was a theater manager. So I saw all these awesome small films, and I met a bunch of directors and filmmakers, and it was really cool just to be a part of that scene. And so I became part of the film community in Austin. And then when Adam made Oscilloscope, I was like, oh, this is perfect. Let me just see if I can get an internship. And that's how I got here.
Yeah. Very nice. I mean, that's I'm sure a very relatable journey for most people as well that have gotten into this.
Yeah, and then my brother also introduced me to a lot of obscure films when I was younger, just forced me to watch stuff, which I think really shaped who I am now.
Good. What about you, Tom? How'd you get here?
A long, strange trip, really. It is quite long.
To be expected, yeah.
Like Rachel, I studied film a little bit in college. My approach was less on the production side, but more about criticism, using film as a way to kind of analyze the life experience and how a film is almost analogous to a novel at times. So I would write about films and took different film courses. Ended up working straight jobs for a couple of years out of college. Ended up working in the music business for quite some time, and ended up at Oscilloscope. Pretty much by happenstance. The company was co-founded by David Fenkel, whose wife went to summer camp with one of the artist manager's wives that I was working with. So again, this is just getting too complicated.
I didn't even know this.
Yeah. We're looking for a DVD sales guy, and they needed somebody who was, knowledgeable and aggressive and kind of understood the culture and what they were doing. And somehow they managed to pick me. Fenkel, brought me in, and we had a good conversation. We kind of hit it off, and he called me the next day, said, "You want to come in and meet Adam?" I'm like, sure, why not? So I came in the city, talked to Adam, and he and I kind of hit it off. We had some common people, or some people in common because obviously, he had a long history in the recording business. I had a long history with record labels, so there was some crossover at times. But I never actually worked directly with him on the music side, but we know people both on the artist management side and the label side that know each other. So again, it's all very incestuous.
Seems like the industry, yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
And as you may know, David Finkel went off to start A24.
What?
Yeah, that was one of the things that I was going to bring up. Is some of the some of the titles could easily fit under that brand as well. But I'm really excited about Oscilloscope's catalog because there's still some titles that, nowadays you would kind of just assume would be A24 films, but something like Wendy and Lucy, which you happen to have the poster above your head there.
I actually have the DVD right here
Look
as well.
at that. That was not planned, by the way. That was perfect. There's stuff like that, or we need to talk about Kevin, that are these massive titles, and somehow Oscilloscope, which doesn't get a lot of mainstream attention. How have you guys been able to get some of these films? Just bluntly, I guess that's the question. I'm sure the answer is knowing the right person at the festival, but there's some great pedigree in the catalog is the best way I want to say that.
Well, the fact that we've been around for as long as we have, and we've released the films that we've been able to release and either monetize them or make the public aware of them to the point where the filmmakers and the producers realize that, we're a real company and we really, put our best foot forward and do the right thing for the films, kind of has been speaking for itself. In the early days with something like Wendy and Lucy, obviously, it's Kelly's, I think, her third film that she ever made, Kelly Reichardt's third film. And the fact that, Adam was who he was, is who he is as a spectral being. made a big difference, in the early days for a lot of access for some of the titles that a brand new company might not have the ability to get. Kind of grow from there, really.
Yep.
I want to make a couple pointed questions, and if they're too specific, let me know. But some of the titles have gotten very prolific. Like, a lot of people know these so well. What do you think is the most distributed title from Oscilloscope? Is that something that is just known around the company? Like, this has been the most popular title?
Yeah, I think we would say Ketty. The poster is up here as well, right there.
Nice.
I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a documentary about Turkish street cats. It's surprisingly interesting, and there's so much emotion in it that you wouldn't expect. But that's definitely one of our number one sellers.
It's probably the most successful film that we've released.
Yeah.
It is actually, shortly after its release, it was the third highest grossing foreign language documentary of all time.
Wow.
I mean, number one was, babies, because, it's about babies and people like babies. And number
Great
two,
explanation.
number two at the time was Pina, the Werner Herzog film.
Yep.
Was it Wim Wenders? I forget. But it was one of those ones that it grossed well because it was shot in 3D and exhibited in 3D, so the tickets were higher. I feel like we've probably sold more tickets and more people have seen Ketty than have seen that film.
Especially now, yeah.
Bragging rights, but yeah.
Yes.
But Ketty had a really, really long life, many lives in that movie.
I think Love Witch as well has also.
Love Witch is good.
Yeah. I think that one just keeps going. As people see memes about it or just see references to it, they watch it and
Embrace of the Serpent was a 2017 Oscar nominee for Best Foreign Language Film. That is I think our second highest grossing film of all time. If you haven't seen it, you should. If you like exotic adventures, it's for you.
Yes.
Beautifully shot, really, really interesting story. It's an evergreen for us too.
Yep.
The other big one I was going to bring up, Rare Exports has gotten
great, especially
popular.
Around this time and around Christmas time. Yeah, Rare Exports is a big seller. We love it.
Now the more personal question, do you guys each have a favorite one in the catalog?
We were talking about
favorite
this before.
oscilloscope? That's like asking who your favorite child is.
Nobody's going to see this, like 12 people probably, so don't worry about anybody else knowing. You personally, what's the one that you look at and go, this is the one I enjoy the most?
Well, for me, it changes pretty much anytime you want to ask me, but most consistently, I'd probably say Terribly Happy. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a Danish film. It is kind of like early David Lynch meets Coen Brothers in Denmark.
It's very good. My favorite film, I like a lot of the documentaries, but most recently Clay Dream I really enjoyed, and Art and Craft.
Yeah.
And also Jay Myself.
Yeah.
We're also
what's my favorite doc? Jay Myself, probably.
Yeah, just creative old white guys. That's my those are my favorite.
Other than the Circle of Trust, what is the best way for people to support Oscilloscope?
Shop at oscilloscope.net.
Yeah.
Borrow movies from your library if you can.
Yes, Canopy.
Canopy for sure if you're a college student. Retailers are tough because we've had mixed successes with some of the bigger chains. We're not in most of the bigger chains simply because they don't sell DVDs anymore.
We're on Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon's a thing for sure. It's certainly easy to get stuff there.
Yep. We have an Etsy page that has prints like this.
I don't think I realized that. Interesting.
Yeah. We have some Love Witch stuff.
Some of our music docs are on Bandcamp, so you can buy your discs there if you want. Also buy some of our vinyl.
Oh yeah, we have a lot of vinyl.
Tons of stuff on the site. You've got the books. Oh yeah, one recently Tangents just came out. I think that was last fall.
Yep.
That was a big one.
have it right here.
How is this possible that everything I bring up is within arm's reach?
When your conference room is also your stock room.
Touche.
Yeah.
Touche. I run a group through my channel as well, and when Tangents came out, this is one that a handful of people were immediately like, okay, I got to jump on this one. This is kind of an incredible choice. And it seems like with Oscilloscope, it's every time a title comes either through Circle of Trust or just happens to be announced as getting distributed, I have a group of people that are like, oh, this is kind of exactly made for me. How did they know I wanted this? And that's where I feel like a lot of companies are not curating as specifically as this, because like an Indigo Girls documentary is not going to come from Shout Factory or something. And I'm not trying to put them down or anything. It's just they're not going to care about something like that, it feels like.
We do have a lot of music documentaries, and I think that has to do with the Beastie Boys connection. But we've been pretty successful at selling them, putting it out. So we keep getting them.
Well, and one of the big things, it is a very specific tone to Oscilloscope that feels right at home in Brooklyn. How's that been, being in the core of growth over the last 16 years and through the home of culture for a lot of this?
Well, we actually started in Manhattan. We were off Canal Street, so close to Chinatown in Tribeca. But that office was really cool because the recording studio was right across the hallway from us.
Nice.
So that was really neat. But we moved to Brooklyn in 2016. And it's cool. It's an old bike shop. But it's nice because we have a storefront this time, so people can actually walk by and like see our brand. We have a neon sign in front, and we have this old school wine and liquor sign that's above us too.
Right. So basically, every summer, a couple times a week, people think that we're
antique store, vintage store. Yes.
Looking for wine or beer. It's like, no, you have to go a couple doors down. It's misleading because this is a giant sign from like the 1920s or something.
Yeah, it's
like
really old.
Prohibition sign, neon sign that doesn't work anymore. But the building, it's too expensive to fix and too expensive to take down, so it's there.
Right.
So we get a lot of misdirected tourists.
But we do have a couple people come in that are actually Oscilloscope fans and are curious about, our films and what we sell here.
Sure.
I hope to make the pilgrimage one day.
Yes.
The near future, anything that you can tease coming out, or things that you've announced as acquiring for digital, maybe that hasn't been confirmed as coming on Blu-ray?
Well, pretty much everything that we release will be available on disc at some point. Again, we were going to geek out about the packaging and stuff, because this is also a big thing of Adam's, is that this actual special wallet plus again, this is like a third generation of that.
Yeah.
Right.
So the one that you have only has 4 panels, or yeah,
look at that. I'll show you.
We used to have.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Multiple.
I got some of those over there too.
Oh, I'm sure.
But in the early days, it was like Adam worked with the printer to kind of create this special packaging. There's no plastic in it other than the disc itself. The paper is 80% post-consumer waste, recycled. The printing was done at a printer that used only water and soy-based inks and dyes because runoff is bad for the environment. All these things were part of the culture, part of the thought process here.
And all of the discs themselves kind of are reminiscent of records because they all look the same. And that's what Adam wanted. He just wanted it to all look like a record label type thing.
Yeah.
And if you collect all of them back in the day, they would spell oscilloscope.
The spine. If you had all 100 to start with, they would spell out oscilloscope on your bookshelf.
Those are for the mega fans.
Yep.
Well, and I guess that's one of the questions I was going to ask too, is how. Now, obviously, we can't get into very specific numbers, but is everything okay? Like, are sales going well? Do we still have a healthy number of subscribers? Because in all reality, like, I work with a lot of these companies behind the scenes, and there are some companies that are worried. Like, if a couple titles don't do well in a row, we might need to make some changes for the next couple after that.
Yeah.
I think it's been pretty consistent. I mean,
it has really been consistent.
The numbers aren't, earth-shattering. But, we saw a little bit of a bump because people started to buy stuff again when they were housebound during COVID. But, previous to that, the erosion in the market for discs especially was just going down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It feels like it's plateaued. Obviously, it kicked up a little bit during the pandemic and then kind of leveled off. We haven't gone down any further than the lowest point that we've been. We're not finding a new bottom, I guess is the nicest way to put it. And physical media is super important to us. There was just a court ruling in California that says, as consumers, you're actually not allowed, or you do not own your digital download. It's only a license. So if you actually physically want to own something that is yours, you kind of have to buy it on disc. And we're just going to keep moving forward with that until they tell us to stop.
Yep.
I was so glad when that court ruling happened, because as most people know, with stuff like this, corporate's not going to roll it out just for California. They're going to make it the same everywhere. So everybody will get some sort of disclaimer saying, hey, you don't own this, which is huge, because there's a lot of people that will argue till they're blue in their face. No, I bought it on iTunes. No, you didn't.
Yeah.
Can you buy it?
Lots of exciting stuff still coming in the future. Circle of Trust. One thing that I didn't hit on with Circle of Trust that I think is one of the more unique aspects too that I'd love people to hear is that you get a choice. Like every time there's a title coming, they'll say, hey, if you don't want this one, just email us and we can skip it. And usually for a subscription, you're kind of locked into, hey, you're just investing in the future of the company. But no, you can literally choose, like, if this one is off-putting to you, you don't have to get it. That's fine.
Yeah. Surprisingly, we don't have like a huge number of Circle of Trust members. So we personally, email everyone and we personally pack everything. Back in the day, in the early days, we had a lot of Circle of Trust, and we would have packing parties where everyone would everyone in the office would come together at the ping pong table and package everything. So everything is very in-house. We do it all very personally.
It's all very bespoke.
Well, and it's not a bad thing either. You can tell, the email comes literally to you. Somebody spent their time putting this in here. Your personal tracking number is at the bottom. It's not just FedEx spit out this email to you. It is something very specific, and it feels like that. And knowing that one of you guys may have packed the lube for me it's just a great story.
Shout out to Sarah. Sarah's the one that sends you guys emails. She's great.
Anything else we want to shout out before we call it a day?
What's coming? It's in theaters now. German-Swiss co-production called The Universal Theory.
Oh, yes.
It throws off super heavy Hitchcockian noir vibes. The soundtrack is amazing, which we actually have on LP vinyl if you want to check it out. It's a beautiful movie. It's fun. It's interesting. It's like a super smart hybrid of Oppenheimer and give me another metaphysical thriller.
It's like parallel universes.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, multiverses.
Yep.
It's pretty interesting. Super
cool.
Yeah. And also, not to get confused with Universal Theory, but we also have Universal Language coming out.
That's a festival favorite. It is Canada's official entry for the foreign language Oscar this year. That comes in theaters in February. Currently, it's doing a couple festival runs. The New York Film Festival premiere, I think, is Monday. Is that right?
I think, Monday. Yeah. Yep.
So that's coming. We're doing a 20th anniversary restoration and relaunch of the documentary called Dig. If you remember the band Dandy Warhols, that drama around that film, it's, some people claim it's the greatest rock documentary of all time. And who am I to argue?
I'm excited about, we have I Like Killing Flies, which came out back in 2006 or 2007. Yeah. We're re-releasing that on DVD and Blu-ray, and we have some extra features. But that's about this little diner in New York that has a cult following. Very interesting stuff.
It's a classic curmudgeonly New York chef. But calling him a chef is, I think he would be angry if he was referred to as a chef. He's just a cook. He's Kenny, yeah. He flips pancakes.
Yeah.
Nice. If I know my audience well, I guarantee at least a few people in the comments are watching this and going to ask, well, is there any chance Oscilloscope is going to ever go into UHD or 4K? Is that ever a possibility?
We've looked into it multiple times. We look into it like once a year to see the prices of it. And right now it's completely out of our budget. It just does not make sense for the amount that we sell. If like thousands of people are buying our discs, then maybe we can do it. Just, we need to sell more to make it make sense. Yeah.
It's not easy, obviously, to pay the licensing fee just to use the UHD monikers a lot, and then authoring all that is more expensive, and everything it gets crazy.
Blu-ray's bad enough. At least the cost to come down a little bit on the actual manufacturing side, but the licensing of the format itself is not cheap.
Yeah,
right.
DVD is pretty cheap, but also our packaging itself is pretty expensive.
Yes.
So when you put 4K on top of that, it gets very, very not worth it. We would have to sell our Blu-rays for like $60.
Well, and that's always a hard thing to convey, though, too, is when you're trying to do something right and do like recycled materials and all this, even though you're looking at it and saying, well, this is flimsier than the other thing I collect.
Yep.
It's not, because you can feel good about purchasing it. But the sad thing is sometimes that does cost a little more.
Yes. I mean, and that's why we also make the Amaray, just the basic plastic cases, because we know some people don't care about the packaging. And if they don't care about the packaging, just basic plastic cases.
Works perfectly.
Also more, transportable. One of the downsides of the oscilloscope, paper packaging, cardboard packaging, is that it can get shop-worn pretty easily. If it's going from warehouse to distribution center to retailer, back to a distribution center, back to us, things tend to get beat up a little bit. The plastic packages, as much as we do not like them, are a little bit sturdier.
Sturdier and cheaper.
And totally cheaper. Yeah. I mean, this is like putting a 50 cent to manufacture DVD into this is like taking a 50 cent piece and wrapping it in a $5 bill.
Yep.
That's kind of
That's essentially what it. Yeah.
Not hyperbole.
No, that totally checks out with everything I've seen behind the scenes. Yeah, that is about exactly what it costs. Check out Oscilloscope stuff online. I'm going to have all the links in the description below. I've been a happy Circle of Trust member for years. I've recommended it many, many times on the show, but to hear it from your mouths is a big thing. And just for a lot of people to put the faces to the name, Oscilloscope has been here for quite some time, and I'm sure we'll be here for many more years.
Yeah.
Hope so.
Well,
really appreciate you taking the time with us, and to all the fans that are listening and watching out there, if you're not a Circle of Trust member,
join.
Why not?
Join the circle.
Sincerely, it's $140, and that includes shipping for the next 10 titles. That's pretty damn great. You should join.
Plus, you get all kinds of fun spam. I mean, if you're in a market where we're having a advanced screening of a movie, you might get a ticket for nothing.
Yeah.
That is true.
I'm not saying that they don't or never happen, but it does happen.
Well, thank you for the time, Rachel and Tom. Hope to be able to talk to you again someday.
Thank you so much, Ryan.
Thank you.
Hello.
This is Matt.
And Emily from Scarecrow Video in Seattle, Washington. Did you know that we have the largest video collection in the world? We have over 146,000 titles and growing. That's over 3 times more than Netflix, Amazon, Max, and Hulu combined.
Plus, Scarecrow now offers rent-by-mail service throughout the U.S., so check out scarecrowvideo.org for details. You can catch Emily and I, or Matt and I, if that was going to be you saying that, on our bi-weekly YouTube show, Viva Physical Media, for video recommendations and so much more.
See ya!
Bye!
Thank you for listening to the Disconnected Podcast. There's one big thing that you could do to help the show, and that is to leave a rating and review on the podcast service of your choice. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster, you know, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, please select the link in the description